The Strait of Hormuz, 3:17 in the morning local time, a moonless sky draped in complete darkness over one of the most volatile stretches of water on the face of the earth. 5 United States Army AH-64 Apache attack helicopters, each one a $30 million combat platform carrying Hellfire missiles, 30mm chain guns, and some of the most advanced battlefield avionics ever placed in a rotary wing aircraft, were flying in formation, low and fast, their rotor blades cutting through the humid Gulf air as they escorted American naval vessels through the narrow throat of the strait. Radar operators aboard the ships below were tracking their signatures. The mission was routine. The night was quiet. And then, without any public warning, without any diplomatic signal, without any detectable escalation in the hours preceding, the sky above them erupted. In a span of minutes that defense analysts are still attempting to reconstruct, all 5 Apache helicopters ceased transmission simultaneously. Their transponders went dark. Their positions froze on tracking screens. Wreckage, according to early reporting sourced to regional maritime officials, was scattered across a wide debris field in open water, less than 30 nautical miles from the Iranian coastline. The sea that has carried the world's energy supply for generations had just become a battlefield in a way that no military planner publicly anticipated for this specific morning. This was not simply an aerial engagement over contested waters. This was a direct military strike against the operational backbone of the United States Navy's most forward-deployed force in the world. And everything that follows from it will reshape the calculations of every government, every energy market, and every military alliance on Earth. According to Iranian state media, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, claimed full and deliberate responsibility for the destruction of all 5 helicopters within hours of the incident becoming public. Iranian military spokesman stated with striking specificity that the Apache aircraft had breached Iranian sovereign airspace. They were not shot down by accident. They were not caught in a miscalculation. According to the IRGC's account, the engagement was authorized at the highest level of Iran's military command structure and was executed as a premeditated defensive response to what Tehran characterized as an ongoing pattern of American provocations in waters Iran regards as its strategic backyard. Iranian state television, within hours of the engagement, broadcast footage that officials claimed showed targeting data from the engagement, though no independent verification of that footage was possible at the time of initial reporting. IRGC spokesman described the operation in language that was deliberate, measured, and highly specific. They named the aircraft type, they cited a coordinate range, and they framed the destruction of the 5 helicopters not as a moment of panic or miscalculation, but as a planned operation with a clear strategic message. Iranian officials stated without ambiguity that American military hardware operating in proximity to Iranian territorial waters should no longer consider itself untouchable. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's office issued a brief statement describing the action as a legitimate act of national defense, proportional and lawful under Iran's interpretation of international engagement rules. But the story, as it always does in this corridor of the world, quickly became far more complicated. Before breaking down what the Pentagon's emergency response actually revealed about how seriously Washington is treating this incident, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, because developments in this story are moving by the hour, and you do not want to miss what comes next. According to U.S. Central Command, not a single one of the 5 Apache helicopters had crossed into Iranian sovereign airspace at any point during the mission. Pentagon officials were unequivocal. The aircraft were operating in international airspace, conducting a lawful escort mission in full compliance with international aviation and maritime law. Defense spokesman described the engagement as unprovoked, illegal, and a direct act of aggression against American military personnel. U.S. media reported that the Pentagon convened an emergency session within 3 hours of the incident, with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, and senior CENTCOM commanders all brought into an urgent classified briefing. Here is what makes the technical picture so significant. The AH-64 Apache is not simply a helicopter. It is equipped with radar warning receivers, missile approach warning systems, and countermeasure dispensers specifically designed to give the crew survivable reaction time against surface-to-air missile threats. The fact that all 5 aircraft were destroyed simultaneously, not sequentially, not over an extended engagement, suggests either a coordinated multi-battery salvo attack or a surface-to-air missile system operating at a level of technical integration that U.S. defense planners did not publicly attribute to IRGC forces at this range and in this environment. Iran operates a layered southern coastal defense network that includes domestically produced Sayad and Bavar 373 systems alongside Russian-supplied and modified platforms. Analysts noted that a simultaneous 5-for-5 kill rate in a single engagement represents either an extraordinary tactical achievement or a level of capability disclosure that Washington will treat as a severe strategic revelation. Between these two accounts, Iranian claim and American denial, lies a complex reality that analysts across 3 continents are still urgently working to understand. What does the Strait of Hormuz actually mean to the world? The answer can be stated in one sentence: if this strait closes, the global economy stops. At its narrowest point, the strait measures just 21 miles across. Through that corridor passes between 17 and 21 million barrels of crude oil every single day. That is approximately 20% of all the oil consumed on Earth, transiting a gap of water so narrow that a ship can see both the Omani and Iranian coastlines simultaneously. The United States has maintained a continuous, unbroken naval presence in and around this strait for more than 4 decades. Not as a gesture, but as the physical guarantee that the energy architecture of the modern world continues to function. Apache attack helicopters assigned to carrier strike groups and naval task forces in the Gulf serve a specific and well-understood operational role. They provide low-altitude, rapid-response defensive cover against the IRGC's most favored asymmetric tactic, the fast attack boat swarm. In multiple exercises and several real-world incidents, Iranian speedboats operating in coordinated groups have approached American warships at close range. The Apache is the answer to that threat. It can engage multiple fast-moving surface targets simultaneously at standoff range. Removing 5 of those platforms from the equation in a single engagement does not merely reduce a capability. It opens a window in the defensive architecture protecting every American surface vessel now operating in the strait. The message was clear: the shield the United States Navy has relied upon in this water can be taken away. The immediate military response from Washington was the fastest-moving element of this story. U.S. Central Command placed all assets in the Persian Gulf region on elevated force protection status within 90 minutes of the incident. The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, operating in the broader Gulf of Oman, was repositioned. Additional F/A-18 Super Hornet fighter coverage was scrambled from the carrier's deck to provide a high-altitude protective umbrella over the remaining American naval task force operating in and near the strait. 2 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers were repositioned to provide expanded surface-to-air missile coverage. The Pentagon simultaneously issued a formal demand for explanation through back-channel diplomatic contacts while reserving publicly, in language that every government in the region understands precisely, all available response options. Regional governments reacted within hours, and the responses revealed exactly how much pressure this single incident placed on governments that depend on that narrow stretch of water for their economic survival. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates convened emergency security consultations. Gulf Cooperation Council officials issued a joint statement within 6 hours, calling the engagement a threat to regional stability and demanding immediate de-escalation. Israeli defense officials, according to regional analysts, placed Israeli forces on heightened alert and noted privately that any sustained military exchange in the strait directly threatened Red Sea shipping corridors already operating under elevated threat from Houthi activity further south. Global markets did not wait for diplomatic statements. Oil prices surged more than 6% in after-hours trading within 90 minutes of the first wire reports reaching financial desks in London and Singapore before any government had officially confirmed the full scope of the engagement. That spike in energy prices carries consequences far beyond the commodity desks themselves. Airline fuel costs climbed within hours. Shipping and freight insurance premiums surged. Manufacturing input costs across supply chains dependent on petrochemical derivatives rose sharply. Senior analysts at major European and American financial institutions issued emergency notes warning that a sustained military escalation in the strait could push global benchmark crude prices above $120 per barrel, a level not seen since 2022, within days. Diplomatic channels lit up across every major capital simultaneously. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session, with the United States presenting its account of events and calling for an immediate international response. Russia and China, both holding permanent veto power on the Security Council, signaled deep skepticism toward the American characterization of the incident and declined to support any draft resolution condemning Iran's actions. European foreign ministers issued urgent calls for restraint from both Washington and Tehran, with Germany's foreign minister explicitly warning that further military exchange in the strait constituted a threat to global economic stability of the highest order. Iran's diplomatic mission to the United Nations filed a formal counter-complaint, rejecting the American account in its entirety and framing the incident as American aggression met with lawful self-defense. Inside the United States, the political reaction was immediate, loud, and sharply divided along lines that revealed how little consensus exists in Washington about how to respond. Congressional leaders from both parties called for emergency classified briefings from the Pentagon and the intelligence community. The Senate Armed Services Committee demanded a full accounting of the rules of engagement under which the helicopters were deployed. The White House press secretary confirmed that the president had been briefed within minutes of the incident becoming known, that the National Security Council had convened, and that all options remained under active consideration. 4 words that carry a very specific and well-understood meaning in the grammar of American strategic communication. Iran maintains that 5 American attack helicopters violated sovereign Iranian airspace and were engaged in a lawful and proportional act of national self-defense. The United States maintains that its aircraft operated entirely within international airspace and that the IRGC conducted a deliberate, premeditated act of military aggression against uniformed American personnel in one of the world's most critical maritime corridors. What separates this incident from the years of skirmishing, proxy conflict, drone interceptions, and naval confrontations that have defined the Iranian-American standoff is the threshold it appears to have crossed. For years, an unspoken but functionally real set of limits governed how far each side was willing to go. Iran struck through proxies. America responded through sanctions, cyber operations, and targeted strikes. Neither side directly and openly attacked uniformed military personnel of the other in a named, acknowledged operation. If the IRGC's account is accurate, and Tehran has made no effort to walk it back, that line no longer exists. The Strait of Hormuz has always been the pressure valve of the Middle East. For decades, the world has watched that valve with anxiety, knowing that the day it fails is the day the energy architecture of modern civilization begins to fracture. Right now, the valve is not simply under pressure. It is the center of an active military confrontation between 2 of the most heavily armed powers in the region. And neither side, based on the statements made in the hours following this incident, appears inclined to step back. Will this engagement remain an isolated incident, or is it the first acknowledged strike in a direct military confrontation between Iran and the United States that neither government can fully contain once it begins to accelerate? Stay tuned for further updates as this situation continues to develop. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest dramatic geopolitical developments shaping the world.